Hey everybody, it's Sam with Wrestling Overtime, and I know it's been a minute since you guys have heard from me, but I want to make sure that I give you all the Raves and Rants review for all of the shows that we have been watching, and tonight we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling on May 19th, 2020. And like I said before, I've gotten into Impact Wrestling since one of you wrote in and asked me to cover it. It really hasn't been that bad of a show. But I am going to tell you that I can understand the thoughts that I read on Twitter and on internet sites and on Reddit about Tessa Blanchard just isn't showing up. She didn't show up this week on May 19th, and I wonder when she actually is going to show up. I hate to start the show off with this, but I mean, we're getting into this number one contenders tournament, and right now we're in the semifinals, and we'll get to finals next week, and I'm interested in it because I want to see who is actually going to be taking on Tessa Blanchard. But I'm wondering what the storyline actually is. With them saying that, she's in Mexico, she can't get back into the country due to the pandemic and everything. Is this reality as far as Impact Wrestling trying to sign her to a new contract, because we know her contract is running out soon and they're playing it up for that? She's going to sign a new contract and come back for the championship match, or she's not going to sign a contract and they're going to have her lose the championship match so that she can go on to whatever promotion she has chosen. So I'm wondering how they're going to play this. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, because if she is going to leave my promotion, then of course I want to get as much work out of her as I possibly can. So I want her there every week doing all of the tapings that possibly can be done. So I'm not real sure why Impact Wrestling is playing it this way. However, the show starts off tonight with, like I said, a number one contenders tournament match of Ace Austin versus Rhino. Now, I'm going to be real honest with you. When I saw the tournament brackets, revealed, I was interested in seeing Ken Shamrock versus Rhino. That's who I guess predicted and who I wanted to see. But Ken Shamrock has had to be removed due to Michael Edlund's attack last week on the locker room talk with Madison Rayne. Now, I had not seen Rhino since his last appearance in WWE. I think he looks good, but he does appear to be a lot slower. I don't know if that's on purpose, that he's a slow, methodical wrestler in Impact Wrestling, or it's due to his age and his injuries, or if it's just due to him going up against Ace Austin, because Ace Austin did look pretty quick. Austin ended up hitting Rhino with an object that the referee didn't see him have. Rhino got a chair, and the referee was trying to get Rhino to put the chair down when Ace Austin got this object and then hit Rhino. Then he hit the fold for the win, and Ace Austin actually moves on. Like I said, I just was expecting a Shamrock Rhino match and was a little let down with this match. But, Ace Austin moves on and we get to continue seeing him. Then we get an interview with Moose by Josh Matthews. And I am enjoying this story. I can't help but be a little tickled by it and intrigued by it. Since Tessa is not here, they've had to have someone step up. And Moose has decided that it's going to be him, and that since he found the TNA World Championship title, then he is now the world champion. And he tells Josh this. Now, as Josh points out, they aren't real championship matches because the TNA World Championship isn't recognized by Impact Wrestling. However, Moose tells Josh that he is being insulting to him because the ref is holding up his belt before his matches and it's being announced as a title match, so therefore it is a championship title match. Josh then brings up how Suicide beat him last week. And Moose obviously corrects him and says no, because the ref was knocked out and he didn't actually count it, that Suicide didn't win last week and he is still the world champion. However, Moose decides to give Suicide a rematch tonight. So I'm kind of looking forward to that match. I enjoyed Suicide versus Moose last week, and so I'm hoping they have as good a match this week. Then we go to the backstage area, and we see Kiera Hogan talking to Tasha Steele to say that she was impressed with her match against Kylie Ray last week, and she tells her that she has Tasha's back. Well, that makes me wonder, why on earth would you go out of your way to tell someone you have their back? What is actually going on and what is Kiera planning there? Then we get Dave Christ, and he brings out OVE versus Crazy Steve. Now, Crazy Steve quickly took over the match, and Joseph P. Ryan came out with his tablet to watch the match, which I'm assuming he was watching Crazy Steve after the dialogue that they had last week backstage. But Dave ended up coming back in the match, and Madman Fulton hit Crazy Steve when the ref's back was turned. Now, Crazy Steve kept trying to get shots in, but OVE ended up hitting him again when Dave distracted the referee. So Crazy Steve was really kind of taking it. But then at the last minute, Crazy Steve hit Dave with an uppercut and then did a flying DDT for the win. Now, immediately after that match, Madman Fulton started yelling at Dave Christ about the loss, and Jake tried to get in the middle of them and stop them from arguing. But Fulton said they're a bunch of losers and he is better than this. He's done, and he tore off his OVE shirt. And then he walked off. So what does this mean? I mean, I don't know a lot of the background on OVE. I do know that Sami Callihan was their leader up until, a month ago, 5 weeks ago, something like that. And then he basically did the same thing, telling them he was done. So it seems like Madman is kind of following his lead, even still to this day. So where does OVE go from here? Do they just become the Christ brothers, or do they recruit new members, or is there going to be something that will bring them all back together? Then we go back to the bar area where we've been, I don't know, the last couple weeks, probably 3 weeks or so, and Rosemary is sitting there and she says that Valkyrie is going to get what's coming to her. Then we see Johnny Bravo walk up and Rosemary tries to act real seductive towards him, and Johnny E doesn't really pay attention. And as he leaves, he says he thinks she's a weirdo. So I'm not sure where that's going. Little disappointed that Valkyrie hasn't came back yet, but wondering what Rosemary is going to do to Johnny E. Bravo. Then we get a match with Triple versus TJP and Falala Baha. Now, I don't know anyone in this match other than TJP, who of course was in WWE, and I got to see him there. I was really surprised at the athleticism of the big guys. However, I didn't feel like the match was really put together that well. I enjoyed Triple XL beating TJ up, and he really sold it well, but it still wasn't that great of a match. Falala ended up making a comeback and did a Samoan drop and then the Mamba splash for the win, but this match was a little bit too long for my taste because it just wasn't interesting. I didn't know any of them and I didn't really get into their story, so it just wasn't interesting to me. Then we get the TNA World Championship match of Suicide versus Moose. And of course, Moose makes everyone go through the motions of it being a championship match. This match just wasn't as good as last week's match. Its storytelling wasn't on par of last week's, and it was almost like they were trying too hard not to do a lot of the same move sets that they did last week or something. Now, it ended up that Suicide hit a code breaker, and then he hit 4 super kicks and went for the pin, but Moose rolled through the pin and actually pinned Suicide for the win in order to keep the TNA World Championship. But like I said, it just wasn't as good as last week's. I don't know whether it was because they had less time, or last week was a better story, or like I said, they just didn't want to try a lot of the same moves that they did last week. I don't know what it was, but it definitely was not as good as last week's. Then we get a Michael Elgin promo where Elgin talks about taking out Shamrock for talking about winning the Impact Wrestling World Championship. And he says that Shamrock doesn't have a chance. Then Elgin pivots and says Sami Callihan likes to talk a lot, but words don't hurt. But Elgin says he does, and he's gonna make Sami hurt tonight. Then we get a backstage promo where Chris Bay comes up on Johnny Swinger and tells him, that he did a good job. Swinger tells Chris Bay that he's going to be the next X Division champion and they're going to celebrate at the landing strip in about 5 minutes. So we immediately come back to Johnny Swinger versus Willie Mack for the X Division Championship. Now, I'm going to be real honest with you guys. I thought Swinger was mostly a comedy act. But, you know, he did prove to me in this match that he can wrestle a little bit. He started off strong, but then Mike hit the Stinger Splash. But Swinger slid off and he hit the Swinging Neck Breaker. But as he was pinning Willie Mack got his foot on the rope. Swinger thought that he had actually won the match though, and so he immediately grabs the X Division Championship belt. And Mike grabbed him and hit a Samoan drop and then a standing moonsault on him for the real win. A little bit of me felt sorry for Johnny Swinger, him thinking that he actually had won the belt. But come on, let's be honest. He doesn't deserve the belt. But I'm also going to be honest with you. I don't get into Willie Mack. I'm not a big fan of him. I don't see why everyone's cheering him on. I'm not seeing anything about him that says superstar on him. And maybe I'm missing something. If I am, you guys write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com and tell me what I'm missing about Willie Mack. But I'm not seeing any great athleticism, quickness. I'm not seeing any charisma or anything that shouts to me that he's going to be a big superstar. So after the match, Chris Bay came out to help Johnny Swinger beat on Willie Mack. So what I wanted to know is this the start of Chris Bay going after Willie Mack's title, and are they building Chris Bay up to possibly take that title away from him? Then we go up to Canada to the Battle Arts Academy where we see the North. Josh Alexander says he cannot do this anymore. He doesn't want to take on any more people that aren't professional wrestlers and don't know what they're doing. Ethan Page says there aren't any challengers left for him not to worry. Of course, then a referee walks in and Josh Alexander starts questioning Ethan Page. And he says, no, we're not taking on anybody. There's no challengers left. And we see Cody Deaner come running in. He challenges them to a match next week, and Ethan Page accepts. However, he really didn't find out who Cody Deaner's tag team partner was gonna be. So I am interested in tuning in next week and kind of finding out what is that gonna look like, who is it gonna get, and are they going to be able to upset the North? Then we get the match that I have been waiting on. I have been wanting to see this match ever since I started tuning in to Impact Wrestling. When one of you wrote in and asked me to, I have wanted to see Sami Callihan versus Michael Elgin. And when they revealed the tournament brackets, I thought this is going to be an excellent match. And this is actually who's going to be who takes on Tessa Blanchard. The winner of this match is going to go through the finals and take on Tessa Blanchard. Little disappointed though Sami Callihan comes out hobbling from his injuries that he received at Rebellion from Ken Shamrock. And of course, Michael Elgin, being himself, takes advantage of this. He immediately zeroes in on Sami's ankle. He then gorges Sami's eye. Elgin, the whole match, keeps going after Sami's ankle, his knee, his leg. And it ends up that Michael Elgin hits the powerbomb for the win. Now, this ended up being a good match, but I wanted more. These are the two top superstars besides Tessa Blanchard, and you're finally getting them in the ring, and I wanted more. However, I understand Impact's reasoning that they gave Sami an out by selling his injuries for losing the match. So Sami doesn't really lose a lot, and then Elgin gets the big win in order to continue on to the finals. I just hope that they give us some kind of future rematch where Sami is actually 100% and they can go all out and give us a 5-star match, because I want to see the two of them tangle. And this ended Impact's show. But where does it leave us? I mean, we've got Ace Austin versus Michael Elgin next week. Well, that's not even a battle, is it? Or am I missing something? I think Elgin just totally runs through him. We've got the North versus Cody Deaner and a mystery partner. I'm not sure that that's going to be that big of a deal. We've got Ken Shamrock hurt, Sami Callihan hurt, and I don't know whether Tessa Blanchard's coming back from Mexico or not. So I'm not really looking forward to next week's show, because I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Now, is that because it's Memorial Day weekend or week and Impact doesn't expect a lot of people to watch, so they're not going to put on, an outstanding show? Well, I don't think that that's an excuse. But hopefully they surprise me and either start some new storylines or give us some really, really good matches. I hope. I don't know. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, problems, or protests for me, you guys need to hit me up on Twitter or our Facebook page at Wrestling Overtime, or write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com and let me know what you guys are thinking and what you guys are wanting, because I'm working overtime to give you what you want.